And now the end is near.
8:05 on a Wednesday morning here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTKA.com. We're live here inside the Suburban Chevrolet Make the Choice studio. Sam Webb and Ira Weintraub, and every Wednesday, top of the 8, we reach out, connect with my man Marcus Ray, M-Ray29. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Sam. Good morning to you. Good morning to Ira.
Well, man, it's always great to catch up with you, but I'm particularly interested in your take on one of your former teammates. Before we talk about anything else, Marcus, I was, took a few calls this weekend and was, just obviously shocked at the news of Steve King's passing, and so many testimonials from Tyrone Wheatley, who I talked to Ed Davis, who called into the show, and your take. Ira read it on Facebook, and at a time in your Michigan career where you said time and time again that you had division on the team, older guys and younger guys. This was a guy, Steve King, was one that seemed like he was able to travel between those lines, or over those lines, and kind of bridge some gaps.
First and foremost, Steve King treated me well on my visit from Columbus. So my host was Diallo Anderson. But Steve and Ty Law and Diallo all hung out together. So I was in the car with Steve King on my visit. Treated me well. Then when I got to Michigan, I didn't play my first year. My second year, when I started as a redshirt freshman, Steve taught me how to play the position and taught me the defense. He did all of this in lieu of the fact that we had to compete against one another. And after my freshman year, I stayed at Harold Goodwin's and Steve's apartment in that 95 off season. Lived with Steve knowing we were going to have to compete. So he was the type of guy, he was selfless. And he cared about people, and he was one of those guys that didn't participate in the division that existed on our Michigan football teams years ago. And so even his fifth year, when he was a senior and he had to compete with Adrian Taylor and I was competing against Chuck, he still stayed positive, and he still did some great things with his life off the field. He graduated, and then he got his master's, and, he was always a family man. And then here we are today.
Yeah, it was, it's interesting, man. The people that touch you most, a lot of times are the guys that people don't hear a whole lot about. It's unfortunate that you hear some of these things posthumously, but still, that they're being said nonetheless tells you from so many people. And that's the thing that jumps out, Marcus. There are so many people that have nothing but positive things to say. And it's not like they have to. There are a lot of people that pass away, man, and people just don't say anything, right? But you got people coming out of the woodwork to talk about what a great guy Steve King was.
Yeah, and it's all genuine, too. And I believe everyone can agree on a lot of things about Steve, but then there are some individual stories that people can share that just made him different. He was from Florida. He didn't have to travel all the way up to Ann Arbor to play college football, but he chose to do that, and he never regretted his decision. And he impacted a lot of people, man. And then, once he got into corporate America and, start working and, once football was done, maintained a positive attitude, man, and was a family man and doing all the right things. And you never heard anything bad about Steve or about Steve getting in any kind of trouble. He had it figured out, and he wanted to help others figure it out too.
Good stuff, Marcus, and I appreciate you sharing that. I want to talk just a little bit of Michigan football as we're getting closer and closer to the season, and people trying to sort through some of the battles that are out there and get some clarity on some of the differences that will be in place as well. So I'm curious if you could talk to us about protection, not from the offensive line perspective, but from the quarterback and running back perspective, because I got a chance to sit down with Fred Jackson recently, getting ready for the preview, and he talked about simplification in the blocking scheme as well from the running back position. He said, there are a lot fewer reads, and he said a lot more is going to be on the quarterback to change protections as well. How might that affect things this year with more being on Devin's shoulders when it comes to changing and sliding protections and the like?
I think that having a quarterback be the primary guy who's handling protections or identifying what the protection is going to be, I think that's going to work better for Michigan, because pass protection is probably the least talked about, but the most important part of the passing game, because sometimes you have to figure it out on your own, or the center figures out what the protection is going to be. And I'm going to say this very simply. The protection is always in the play call.
Mm-hmm.
So it may say something like, if it's a pass play, 70. That number, that's not like 7 back going to the throw. 70 might mean 7 guys are staying in and blocking to the right, or 71. It may be, the 7 may be a 5-step drop, and the protection going to slide to the left because it's an high number.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand that if the offensive line, normally the center identifies the protection, and he'll do that based on the defensive line front and what the linebacker set is. So if it's like a 4-man front, it'll be this. If it's 5-man, it's this. If they think it's a blitz, then it's that. So there's a lot of thinking, and then those guys have to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because now the running back has to hear the protection, and then he may, let's say, against Michigan State, where we slid the line all the way to the right, then the back would take the first guy off the left, the blind side. But now with Devin doing it, he will know exactly where the pressure is coming from, because he's the one that's going to identify the protection. So he'll know if his blind side is protected. He'll know who's blocking who where based on what he called as the protection. So, lastly about that is that he got 6 guys blocking up front, like 5 offensive linemen, and let's say a running back, 3 will slide right and 3 will slide left, and they have to know that. Or sometimes if it's man protection, then everybody has to identify their guy. But if Devin makes the call, now he's the one that's telling everybody, you're blocking so-and-so, and you're blocking so-and-so, and it's up for everyone else to understand what Devin called and remove all the thinking.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that actually manifests on the football field. As far as success is concerned. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it and say it's going to lead to some improvement, but he said, there's going to be a lot more when it comes to identification of pressure and changing protections. He said a lot more of that is going to be on the quarterback this year. He said last year, man, there were times where the running back, he said, man, the number of reads that the running back had, he said it was more than he could recall many of his running backs having to deal with the one exception being Mike Hart. But he said, with Mike Hart, he said, you're talking about a very high aptitude guy, but he said it was more like what Mike Hart had to go through in his second year in the offense during his tenure at Michigan, what Michigan was doing last year. So it really seems like, as much as we were on the guys about, their blocking, and rightfully so, a lot of it was the complexity as well.
Yeah, and, that's one of the reasons Mike Hart played early, because he was able to pass protect. Most great running backs can pass protect, run, block. They don't turn the ball over. But Mike figured that out early, and then that's the. If you let Fred Jackson tell it, and if you study football, the quickest way, the hardest thing for a young running back to do is learn pass protection. It just is. They want the ball. They want to do like they did in high school. But it's a totally different ball game once you get to Michigan. And Fred Jackson is the master of simplifying terminology and techniques and, helping young guys come up to the line and know who to block. The other thing Fred does, he teaches running backs not to come to the line and look from right to left, because that's how they give away if it's a pass play or not. When a running back just lines up and his head doesn't move, it's probably a run play. But if he comes to the line, he's looking from left to right, he's trying to make sure he knows who he has to block when it's a pass play. And that's one of the secrets that we learned in '97, was we were able to know when it was going to be a pass or a run, because we studied small little tidbits like that.